Hey, how's it going, Alex?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. I'm actually at home. We're just Garrett's finishing up food, so hopefully we'll be there in person in a little bit. But I'll be logged in the interim.
Okay, sounds good. Bene. Sono arrivato d'Italia qualche giorno fa.
Tornato dall'Italia.
Sì.
Com'era? Caldo.
Non avevo mai avuto così tanto caldo in Italia. Ah, forse agosto. Adesso è incredibile. Sì, ho visto il fiume Po, era tutta sabbia. Un po' d'acqua, ma fa paura. Meno male che siamo stati in qualche posto che ci sono.
Yeah.
More than before. More than before. Because when I lived there 20 years ago, nobody had it.
Yeah.
Nobody had it. What, the air conditioning? I mean, it doesn't let fresh air into the house, so you have to open your windows at some point to get oxygen in the house. Where do they live, your parents? Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember if I went there when I lived there. Yeah, I was thinking about going this time, but it was too far away from where we were. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a beautiful place. Yeah. Okay. So good. Good. Yeah. Wow. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's see what he says. I mean, I think at the end, we should just ask for however much we think we need.
Yeah.
And then let them decide. We ask for 100,000 and see what. The village has the money. The village has the money.
Now, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, me too. The problem is now FPL they raised the rate, so now the minimum is $30 instead of $10. So
Sure.
which batteries did you have? What happened with the battery?
Never.
It's 3.3 kilowatts, a small one. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about doing that just for like basic, because you can use that for the refrigerator and
Exactly.
some lighting. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Unfortunately, not enough for air conditioning.
No.
Not for central air. Yeah, I have the mini split. One of my rooms, like the guest room, has a mini split, and that's very low energy. So if we do a battery, we'll probably at least just so one room has
Yeah,
air conditioning, the whole house. But eventually, I want to do like maybe mini split for the whole house, so that you can have just each specific room have its own control. Because that's a good investment, though. It's a good
Well,
investment.
now,
Yeah, it's for me the only thing in winter I don't really produce a lot because I have shade in the front of my house on the south side and it covers it up. So I only produce like 200 kilowatt hours. Right now I'm producing like 1.1, 1.2 kilowatt hours, but yeah, in the winter it's low. So I'm just hoping that whatever is like the excess right now will make up for that. I love it, but the only thing I regret not doing is the IQ8, the micro inverters that allow you to be on the grid even when the power goes out. Yeah, but the power really doesn't go out that often. I mean, it's like a couple times a year. You know, it's not that much. So I would have had to wait if I would because the IQ8 they just came out right now. I would have had to wait like another 2 or 3 months to get the system installed to get those in stock. I'll just wait until the batteries get a little bit less capacity. Yeah. Did you put it only on the south facing side or on the other side too? Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Keep going. Good. Yeah, I have mine on. Everybody was telling me not to put it on the north facing side of the house, but I did it anyway. And that side produces only like 5% less than the south facing side. So if I didn't have that in the winter, I would produce nothing. I'm talking about the solar panels.
yeah, but it's not fact.
Yeah. 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 So far, it's worth it. I mean, I would have been paying FPL right now probably like $170 a month, $180 a month. Instead, I'm paying 150 to the solar for the loan and $30 to FPL. So it's the same, but at least paying myself for the solar panels. So. Yeah, you don't need to decide that right away either. It's actually you can install the system and then just like have it basically prepared that you can put the battery anytime. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if Kate's gonna be here. Oh, you know what? She's gonna be out of town. She's out of town until July. So we're good. We can get started. Yeah. So William, you still there?
Yes, sir. How's it going, guys?
And just, guys, remember to have your mics turned on.
Alex Pereira present.
All right. Is yours on? I don't think yours is on. There you
Daniele present.
go. Okay, so calling to order Sustainability and Resilience Advisory Board meeting, June 28th, 2022. So roll call, we have William Aitken on the phone,
Present.
and we have Daniele,
Present.
Alexander,
Present.
and myself, Alexander Bernhard. Kate Davis, I don't know if she's joining virtually or not, but I don't believe she is. So did you guys receive the minutes that Shante sent? We just need to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor of approving the minutes?
Approving.
Aye.
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 All right, minutes approved. Let me just write multitask here. Okay, so new business, FPL electric vehicle charger. So I spoke to FPL again about it. Unfortunately, our village wasn't a good candidate for their program where they install the free electric vehicle chargers. But on the good side, the 125th is a possible 125th Avenue is a possible place where they will install them. So even if we don't get it installed through FPL, of course, we still have the option of requesting electric vehicle chargers to be installed at a cost to the village or through other forms of payment, grants and things like that. But FPL didn't end up working out. The commission meeting, I did communicate the items that we voted on at the last meeting to the commission. The first of which was our unanimous request to be involved in the RFP process for the Resilient Florida grant. We did communicate that to the commissioners. Didn't get a response on that yet, but it was communicated to them. And then also requesting to the commission that we waive permitting fees for solar panels and driveways. That's actually something that we can do through a not an ordinance. It's I forget the name of the other type of legislation that they do, which can start basically effective them voting it at the next meeting. So I believe that will be brought up at the next meeting and voted on. So we would actually be able to have that start right away as soon as they approve that this year. We wouldn't have to wait until the next budget cycle. So hopefully that goes through. So So old business, budget requests. So we were gonna revisit a couple of the items that we talked about last time. Let me just open up here. So, Alex, I think you were gonna look into a little bit about LED lighting.
Yeah, I didn't only because I had been discussing with Mario the sort of emergency situation we were faced with the flooding.
Yeah.
I need to get back to him on that, but I've
Okay.
kind of that's taken a back seat. I didn't
Yeah.
want to go more on his plate.
Yeah, of course.
That, given that situation, I think he heard enough from me at that point. So I just thought I would back off and say,
Yeah.
really bright streetlights wasn't really, the priority anymore,
Yeah.
considering the flooding issues. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I hadn't forgotten about it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think what we were interested in is not necessarily just the bright part, but just kind of getting an idea of what it is that FPL is really charging us for and what the process would be to replace the current street lighting, which we're paying $20,000 a year for, non-LED. So yeah, maybe you can revisit that. It's not like an action item that needs to happen now, but it'd be good to have a good understanding of exactly what it is that they're charging us for.
One thing will be also helpful for the solar project. We ever ask if FPL can recognize Biscayne Park as one administrative unit, because now there is the bill for the
Yeah.
center and things like the
Yeah.
5, 6. If we can have one entity, so in case also we have a solar system can produce some credit, it can still consider for the entire
Yeah.
bill.
Yeah, that would be great if we could do that. I don't know that we have, I don't know that that's been requested. I don't know if you want to, maybe if you want to ask Mario, see if that's something that's possible.
I
Do that.
I think it's worth, because the point is, in case they move for the first project of the solar,
Yeah.
they can think in the future for the second one to the Berk, where they can really create a power plant.
Yeah, you can offset.
They can offset
Yeah.
the rest of the consumption. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
so I don't know if I had to ask to
Yeah, I would just email.
Commissioner?
I would email Mario and just ask him if maybe he can inquire with FPL if it's possible to merge all of the accounts into one account.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is or not, but it's worth asking, because first off, it would just be easier from a logistical standpoint, regardless of solar. But definitely for the solar, it would be good because you can offset
exactly.
from the other buildings. Yeah, that's a great idea. So. All right, so Alex will further investigate LED lighting, what FPL is. Daniele, ask Mario about merging the accounts. Okay. And the next item, let's see. The Resilient Florida grant. Yeah, I did mention that we did let the commission know that we would like to be involved in that process, and definitely are available to support Mario on that. Haven't heard back on what the timeline on that looks like, but I'm going to see if I can schedule a meeting with Mario. He wanted to meet, but I was out of town still, so I'm going to try to set up another meeting with him now that I'm back. And in terms of the 2023 budget request, the other item, sorry, I skipped ahead. So Daniele, I know you had a couple of just comments about the solar that you were telling me before about you were going to get some updated quotes, right?
Yeah, I request some updated quotes about the ground system, instead to put the installation from the roof, to have something on the front of the business center. So for that, probably my contact, Geronimo Zarro, will need to have a kind of visit check in front
Yeah.
of it and check with the electrical panel, what is the configuration.
Right.
But is more than feasible. On top of that is waiting for an update of the price of solar installation thing that are happening now in July.
Yeah.
So there will be a refresh of the rate.
Okay.
It will be more precise in the next quote.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so they'll provide an updated quote. Do you know if he's going to be able to provide that before our next meeting in July?
I hope so. It told me
Okay.
next week.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah, I know there was one meeting that was not the second Tuesday of the month, but I think that was August, right? There was one meeting that we were having that wasn't the
I think last week was a Thursday, or I skip it.
right. No, but I mean, one of the next meetings is not going to be on the second Tuesday because I think there's like there's like a special commission meeting. But well, we can discuss that after at the end of the meeting. So we had the solar. So what I'm going to do, because since we aren't going to be able to get those EV chargers installed by FPL free of charge, I want to look at proposing that we pay for EV charging stations. And I think it would be good to have 2 here at the village in order to encourage and allow both police officers and village employees who are thinking about having an electric vehicle to have a place to charge. It doesn't need to be a rapid charger because since they work there, it can just be like a level 2 regular charger. You plug it in and after like 3 or 4 hours, it's done charging. It's not that expensive. I mean, it's basically $6,000 per port. So for one, for 2 ports over there, we'd be probably talking about $12,000 to $15,000. And so it's not a very expensive thing to do. And then possibly putting another couple of chargers in the rec center, since they're going to be Mario's actually going to be asking for some grant money for that. And maybe we can have some more charging areas in the parking area over there, maybe having, 4 or 6 chargers and at least 1 or 2 dedicated EV charging. The only tricky part is that you can't really necessarily limit it to only village residents, but that's kind of just the nature of the situation of a charger. But
In reality, we are also helping the electric car.
exactly, the adoption.
Because,
Yeah.
It's not only for the Biscayne Park. It's somebody passing. They know there is a center here.
Yeah, exactly. It's good for I think it's a good thing for the
Community.
village. And again, it kind of also ties back to the solar, because if we end up being able to install solar panels, we can offset the energy that are required to charge those vehicles, charging directly from solar power. So that
Sustainable.
adds an element of sustainability. Yeah. Yeah. So I did want to bring it up for a vote that one of the things that we request from the budget is installation of electric vehicle charging stations, one station with 2 ports at the village hall, and then another one with maybe 2 or 3 stations with 2 ports each at the rec center, especially because they're doing that parking update. And I think they're going to be actually adding a couple of parking spaces. So a minimum of 1 of those spaces, if not 2, to be dedicated to electric vehicle charging.
Usually it's always kind of, they go in couple.
Yeah, that's what it
So
seems
it's
like.
Like 2 stations, yeah.
It seems like it. Yeah. There's some stations that actually have 2 chargers in one station. So you can actually have like the station between 2 parking spots and it has 2 wires come out. Some of the newer stations have that. So that's a possibility too. But yeah, I think, I think having at least 1 pair of chargers and if not 2 pairs of chargers. So I'd like to bring that up for a vote to see who's in favor of requesting on the next year's budget the addition of chargers. I'll figure out the exact pricing of what that is, but like I said, it's about $6,000 per charger. So a minimum of like, you know, $25,000, $25,000. And then, you know, between here and the rec center. So that's the idea.
The thing is like we have an idea how many electric car we have already here around.
There are a lot. I
Okay.
see a lot of Teslas. That's really the most that we see, but
Because I agree with the administration center as of main location.
Yeah.
Maybe for the Burke Center can be also some other proposal, because I think maybe it's depending also the people use the car or
Right.
they park the car, can be also the church.
yeah,
I mean, some point where we know that it's smart to have it.
yeah, that's a good point.
So maybe the
So-
location can be studied a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's true because there at the rec center, people aren't necessarily going to be parking for the entire day or for an extended period of time. They're just going to use it. So it might just be something where people from outside of the park just come in and charge, which again is not necessarily a bad thing, but if
Exactly.
we want to create something that's a service to the community, then maybe it's better here because that way it's going to be serving the police officers and employees of the
Is for
village.
sure, yes.
So maybe we say at a minimum, we request one for the, or a pair of chargers here for the village hall, and then study the feasibility of doing a couple of more in the rec center if it makes sense. So,
Right, well, it's an open spot like that, that's not regulated.
yeah.
So you can have somebody who's just gonna post up there.
Well, it would be regulated in the sense that if we set it aside as a charging, like a parking spot specifically for electric vehicle charging, you have like an actual, like there's a Florida law that you can't park there if you're not charging, like it's a 250.
No, what I meant is someone from the neighborhood who will,
Yeah, it
as
could be.
opposed to
All right.
charging at home,
Yeah,
just use that.
right. Yeah. That's a good point.
It's just, I'm not playing devil's advocate. but-
No, I understand. So why don't we say then, why don't we just say, set aside to request, the thing is that the parking here is so limited. I don't know if they're gonna really expand the parking, but if maybe we could get them to expand one extra spot right over there on that side, because they are gonna be doing something with parking here eventually, and include a electric vehicle charger there, maybe one that's on one of these spaces and one in front of the.
Usually they reserve the most convenient space for handicap, and then is electric vehicle today.
Right. Well, I mean, so that's logistics. So maybe let's just say that we're going to request the installation of 2 electric vehicle charging ports in the village center, whether it be in the log cabin or in front of everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, for me, the 6 unit is okay as idea, as a target.
yeah.
2 for sure here.
Okay. William?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea if we get them, at least one location. I think this sort of village center, the log cabin makes great sense. But if other locations also, yeah.
Okay. So is everybody in favor of that, requesting that in the budget?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just write down what I'm going to actually request here to make sure everybody's on board. So request installation of so request the installation of a minimum of 2 EV charging stations accessible to village hall employees and police officers. I think it's good to frame it that way because that's sort of the idea, is to encourage within the village. And then if, maybe they decide that they can do 4 instead of 2, it's not a huge cost. So everybody okay with that? So request the installation of a minimum of 2 EV charging stations accessible to village hall employees and police officers. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, okay. William,
Yes.
in favor? Okay. All right, so I'm in favor as well.
Hey guys, it's Kate.
Hey, Kate.
Hey, sorry, I had difficulty logging in. Sorry for being late.
Thanks for joining.
I'm here now.
Did you get to hear a little bit of the conversation regarding the well, I don't know how much have you heard so far? We were just taking a vote on the charging stations.
Okay, I just heard you put the motion. That's all I heard.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, we already voted, but anyway, just so you know what we were talking about. One of the things that I wanted to request on for the budget requests was to add some charging stations, electric vehicle charging stations for Village Hall. And we also talked about the rec center, but Danielle and Alex brought a couple of good points about how it's not necessarily, it might not be the ideal place to put it, just because residents, if they have electric vehicles, they'll just plug it into their house and there's really not necessarily a need for it there. Whereas in the Village Hall, where we want to promote electric vehicles for village employees and police officers, that would be a good spot to have them. So we're basically asking for a minimum of 2 EV charging stations in the Village Hall, and requesting that in the budget.
Okay. Do they currently have any electric vehicles in the fleet for the village?
Say again?
Does the village currently in their vehicle fleet, do they have any electric vehicles right now?
They do not, but that's actually another element of it that I think is good sort of planning for the future, because it would be good for, I mean, obviously sometime in the future, police cars will be electric, probably not that soon, but definitely code enforcement at some point would be a good, I think, candidate for an electric vehicle. And they park right there in Village Hall during the day. So that would be actually a great selling point for that.
Right. Okay, sounds good.
So did Kate or William, did you all have any other budget items that you wanted to discuss? Kate, I remember you were looking into like a resilience guide, sort of pamphlet for residents.
Yeah, I did think about it and looked a little bit into it. I just didn't know how we would want to distribute that, if we would want to just do it electronically, or if we, wanted to actually do the printing.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of like trying to avoid doing printing, but
Yeah.
I just didn't. I think like the printing fees was like something like $300 or something like that, but I don't even know how many of those we would actually need. I don't know exactly how we wanted to do it. If we wanted to do it door to door, how some of the other things go out, I've seen, on the doorknobs or whatnot. That would probably be more, because
We would necessarily want to send it out to every single resident.
Or do we just want to, have it at Village Hall, like there for people that coming in and out, and then distribute it electronically as well, But the cost for that is minimal, but I think it's just more. The one thing I don't have is design, like a design fee for putting that together.
Right. Okay.
But I think that we think. I mean, I've done those for my company before, and I think we could, get it done minimally, with a couple $100 with that. So.
Okay.
But I don't have anything like proposals or anything to present.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need a specific proposal. Maybe if we want to do like a number of just a budget request for, let's say, I don't know, $2,000 to cover. I think it's a great idea to have them accessible in the Village Hall and not necessarily distribute the physical ones except for in Village Hall, and then just send electronic copies to everybody who's on the list. What do you all think?
Yeah. About the power demand, is everything taken care from FPL and things, so they need to use some public building. So
Say again?
no, I was thinking about the charging station thing.
Oh, for the charging stations. Yeah, that's going to be we're going to be paying for the electricity on that. So we can decide if we want to make those to charge like money to use them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what the implications are of that, but we can make them either free or
for pay.
Be for pay because otherwise everybody will come here.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we would probably do it free for employees and then anybody else would have to pay. But- So Kate, maybe if you could come up with like a ballpark number for design and let's say, I mean, printing, it's just gonna be however many you think we would want to print just to have them available at the village hall. That way we can have an actual number. I'm in favor of that, definitely. And it would be good to have a number so that we can at least present that to, you know, I would overestimate it. And then if it's less, it's less.
Okay. Do you want the amount for right now? Or like I can give you an estimate right now, or you guys want me to get
No, I
something
think
more
we can,
concrete?
yeah, I would maybe for the next meeting, unless you think, you know, the number that you have now is, you know, solid enough that we can just go ahead and vote on that and just put it as an item as for, you know, however much you think it is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that we could get it within like $1,500.
Okay. All right. So 1,500, do you think is that like within comfort, or should we overestimate it at 2,000 just in case something unexpected comes up there?
I think we could do it for that.
1,500. Okay. All right. So. So what we're going to vote on is Kate's budget item proposal for a sustainability guide for residents for $1,500 in order to print a certain number of copies. We don't have to specify how many for the village hall for people to have access to, and then to email blast an electronic version of the guide. All in favor?
In favor?
In favor.
Aye.
Okay. Okay. So let's see the next item. I think that was it. Were there any other budget requests that we wanted to discuss that we haven't discussed yet? There was another one that I wanted to bring up, and I'm curious to get everybody's thoughts on. And I think it's really important, and I think we should seriously consider having a resilience coordinator for the village. And basically what that is, it's a position that exists in other communities. And right now there are billions of dollars in grants available for resilience. And we actually are in what's called an adaptation action area for the Arch Creek Basin. So we're actually eligible for specific grants related to resilience. But right now we don't have anybody that's like actively pursuing that. And obviously there's only so much we can do as an advisory board. To have somebody who is full-time dedicated to coordinating, basically executing the outcome of this resilience grant that's going to, the climate change vulnerability assessment, the action items that are going to come from that, and coordinating the grants that we are eligible for, either related to that grant or not, but relating to resilience, specific to flood resilience. So there are a lot of options out there for flood resilience. It's a hot topic right now just because of the recent flooding. But I think we're missing the boat on huge amounts of money that are available for us to do it with matching grants, with 100% grants. There's so much money out there right now. And as a small village, we could really, have a big impact on planning for the future for our residents who are at most risk, and the village as a whole. So I do think that considering bringing on somebody that is their full-time job would really be a great asset for the village. We're probably talking about a salary somewhere in the $80,000 range. And then once you put in benefits and everything else, so you're talking about double that, maybe $160,000. But if you take a look at how much we could gain from that in terms of grants, I think it's definitely a worthwhile investment.
So what will be the duty for this coordinator? Is a kind of project manager to achieve the best of the grants available.
Basically, they would be the go-to person. So any of these grants that they would write the grant. So we would want somebody with I think we would want somebody with grant writing experience. I know that there are grant writers that the villages uses already, but these specific grants that are relating to resilience, there's kind of, specific language that needs to be used there. And, we're obviously paying grant writers anyway, if we can have somebody in-house that's doing that.
If there is a kind of variable target, why we don't have a kind of fixed salary plus super bonus based on the result?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that compensation looks like, and maybe I don't even know how these positions are usually compensated. But if that's one way to do it, where you have a base salary plus a percentage, I don't know what the legal implications are of doing those kind of, pay for play type thing. I don't know how that works. It's kind of like a commission based thing. I don't know that you're really allowed to specifically get paid a percentage of a grant. I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it's possible or not.
You can pay based on the grant achieved. You have a kind of bonus scale.
Right. I mean, as long as that's budgeted, I would imagine that as long as that's budgeted for money that doesn't have anything to do with specifically the actual grant money that you receive, and it's just money that is part of the payroll, that there's no connection saying that part of this grant is going towards a bonus, then I would imagine you could probably do that. It's a good idea. I don't know if that's possible or not, but that's definitely something that I think could be considered, because this money is here now. I mean, there's $500 million in the state of Florida alone. That's not counting other federal grants and, nonprofits and foundations. So I just think that we shouldn't wait on this money, that we need to be actively pursuing the money, and all of these improvements that need to be done, especially with flood mitigation, can be paid for with these grants.
But this grant is only to make a study for the flooding, or also to take some countermeasure for the flooding?
Well, this grant is going to cover the study to identify the vulnerabilities and then create an action plan for what can be done. So from that action plan, let's say part of that action plan is biosoils, or part of that action plan is French drains, or whatever part of that action plan says. The next step would be to get the money to actually execute every one of those strategies. So there's going to have to be a lot more work done. And of course, we could contract, a contractor to do that, but it makes more sense to me to have somebody in the village who's actually dedicated to just doing that. I mean, there's definitely, I think, enough work to do that. Obviously, we would have to see what, how that would look in terms of, I guess she would report to the manager, but I think, I haven't talked to Mario about it. I'll bring it up when I meet with him, but
Which is the timing from now the grant, the study that need to be proposed? So when these people should start to really work? And
it's a good question. I don't know. I haven't gotten that answer yet. So I'm going to try to get that answer when I speak to Mario. Let me just put a couple of things on the list here. So from what I understood, I mean, these grants they're kind of on a rolling scale. So I think the Resilient Florida grant was due. Honestly, I don't know. I don't want to say a date off the top of my head because I don't know, but I think it's within basically a year. So like we would start executing elements of those recommendations if we wanted to wait until that study came out sometime in 2020, probably like the second half of 2023. So like the next, not this budget, but the next budget after that. So to have somebody already on board that's planning all this out and creating the strategy, and somebody who has the experience, who's either done it before or has some element of experience that can make these things happen and go smoothly and go in our favor in terms of achieving these or getting these grants, I think would be a great asset. And again, I think we can afford it. I think if we put it in the budget, it's not a crazy amount of money. And considering the amount of money we can actually get in grants, I think it's a worthwhile investment. We don't necessarily have to vote on it right now, but I just wanted to have a discussion to see what people thought. And then maybe I'll do a little more research as to how these people are paid. If we can do, like Daniela was saying, sort of like a performance-based compensation scheme, what the general salaries are for somebody like that. I don't know, Kate and William, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a little bit of a big ask budgetary, but I think it's great to signal at least that's where we're headed, or looking forward past just like the risk assessment in terms of like actually making change. And yeah, you read all the times articles about this place doing these sorts of things, and yeah, I mean, if there's so much opportunity, I think Biscayne Park could certainly be doing some innovative stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's a great idea. I think Will said it's kind of a huge ask for the village. Don't know if they actually have that amount of available funds for an employee. Don't know if we have anybody that has the ability to manage this type of employee, or has the ability to. I mean, it would kind of be like, I would have to be self-sufficient, I guess, maybe the manager. I'm kind of thinking it out loud, obviously. We just started talking about it, so I haven't thought about it a lot, but I don't know if, to me, it seems wiser, maybe better to maybe do it as a consultant, have one of our consultants come, because right now I don't know if it's would be a full-time employment, like if they would have enough to work on currently. Maybe like in the future, but right now it would be definitely things that our consultants that we currently have that could take on until we see what the needs are. Or if we could have that person, maybe be also an engineer or something like that could oversee some of these, like, we're moving forward with drainage projects. I think that's the biggest problem we have right now in the park. Because we're such a small community, it's not like we have a lot of like open space or large areas or large community areas to manage for these people, or a lot of ability or funding to do a lot of these projects. So obviously, like you said, it would be all grant based. I mean, if we could get enough grants, we could probably get enough to, if the grants allow, to pay for that employee. I'm not sure, but for sure, we could get at least some funding to do, to have consultants do some of the work, possibly.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I in terms of the workload, it's kind of like a chicken and the egg sort of scenario. Which comes first, the grants, who then have to be managed by a resilience coordinator, or a resilience coordinator that helps us get the grants and then manage them. So it's a good question. I don't know the answer to. And maybe at the least we request funding that's specific to a consultant that will do all of this, and then with the idea that maybe once that person has enough of a workload that looks like it's a full-time position, then for the next budget allocation we can actually request a full-time person. But I do think it would be important to specifically request funding that is for a consultant, that's specifically what they do. And one thing, I did actually have a phone call with the there's a liaison in the city of Village of Miami Shores. I don't know if it's village or city now, I don't remember. I think it's city. And she's basically the person that works between the commissioners and their sustainability board, which just recently got off the ground again. And one of the things that I heard previously is possibly a chief resilience officer that would coordinate for El Portal, Biscayne Park, and Miami Shores. That's something that I've heard that was discussed at some point in time. So it could be interesting that maybe we have, we can take that approach where the villages are similar in many ways. Obviously, they have the little river over there in El Portal, which we don't have, but that could be one way to look at it as well. So provide funding for somebody who's kind of splitting their work between the three villages. I don't know how that works from a legal perspective, or if that's even a possibility, but maybe pooling resources together, since we are a small community, like you said, could be one way to look at it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because that way we won't have to, pay for that all up front, and it would be split between the communities. And like you said, they were very similar. I think the initiatives are the same. I mean, we all, like you said, have canals going through and all have drainage issues.
I see more effect if you dedicate to the village, because there is some effects on the real estate value. If really we are able to have a kind of solid plan and then some grant for action, whatever property in this area will increase value, just because we will have,
Yeah.
if we spread across a bigger territory, I don't think we can achieve the same results and the same kind of valuation.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would be an interesting conversation to have, but I do see your point as well. I think the bottom line is that, maybe it doesn't make sense immediately to request for a full-time resilience coordinator just for our village, and maybe just set aside funding for that consultant work, and then, decide, the village manager and the commission would decide how that's done. But and of course we would give our recommendation, but setting aside funding that's like 100% specific for resilience grant writing and project management for flood mitigation and storm mitigation. So I'll do a little more research on that, just to kind of find out what other villages in the area are doing.
No, it sounds like a great idea. It's just, we need to figure out which the chicken and egg scenario. Is this going to be a grant that
Yeah.
is going to cover the cost of a grant coordinator? Is it a consultant, like you said, until the grant is found?
Yeah.
And what's the, when does it become self-funded? When does this become a
Yeah.
consultancy versus, and then lastly, to everyone's point, how do you gauge the success of this person?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to Mario about it as well. Be curious to hear his perspective on it, since somebody like that he would be working with, more than anybody else.
This sustainability
Yeah.
grant is the only one available for the village, or there is maybe other?
Oh, there are many grants available. Many grants.
So maybe this person can really become a full-time jobs if it's like hunting for money.
That was my original idea, is that there are so many grants out there available that are outside of the Resilient Florida grant, whether it's federal grant, foundations. There's so much money out there for resilience right now that I think that whether that justifies a full-time person or not, I don't know. But even if we can find somebody who's a consultant and they start working half-time, part-time, they're working 20 hours a week on that, and we realize that we need to have somebody that's working 40 hours a week. But I think most likely for us to be able to justify asking for a full-time person, we'd need to have somebody part-time first that's showing that we can get these kind of results. I don't know. I mean, I'll do a little more research. I'll see how other villages go along with that. I mean, I know the city of North Miami has a full-time person. They have a sustainability coordinator, and that's exactly what she does, among other things. And she's got a full plate, but then again, that's the city of North Miami. It's a massive, massive city. So I'll do a little more research and bring that to the next meeting. So let's see. Was there anything else from the standpoint of funding for the next fiscal year that anybody wanted to talk about? So the one last item that I did want to bring up was that, as I mentioned earlier, Mario is going to be pursuing a grant for $450,000 that would, part of which would cover the rec center parking. So I don't know if any of you all have had a chance to look at, I think we all looked at it, the parking that they proposed for around the rec center. The consultants that created that proposal all of a sudden started recommending porous asphalt, which I don't really understand how they would recommend that as a sustainable option, since porous asphalt has to be vacuumed very often in order for it to remain porous. It's basically asphalt. I mean, the last thing we want in the park is more asphalt. It's still black and it's still made from petrochemicals. It's still asphalt. So I would like to reiterate at the next commission meeting that we are recommending against the use of asphalt, even if it is porous asphalt, because it's still asphalt. It's still black asphalt that is going to only be porous for a very short amount of time. And then it'll basically just be like any other asphalt.
Asphalt with holes in it.
Yeah, it's asphalt with little holes. But what happens over time is that when it rains, dirt goes into those voids. And if you're not vacuuming that on a very regular basis, it's not going to be porous anymore. So realistically speaking, are we going to have the village going out there and vacuuming every one of those parking spots once a month or once every 2 months? Never going to happen. So they said that that's because that's the least expensive option, but I never saw any numbers to really back up what the difference in price was. So that's another item that I wanted to talk to Mario about, what that actual difference in price really is. But regardless, I don't think we really need to bring it up for a vote, because we already did vote unanimously against using asphalt and going for the more resilient option of all of those. But the porous asphalt wasn't even on the original proposal that they gave. So that kind of broadsided me at the last meeting. So, you know what, I will bring it up for a vote just because I want to be able to say that at the next meeting that we're reiterating our, opposition to using asphalt, whether it's porous or not. I mean, that's my thoughts. I mean,
Pushing our solution means gravel, means something drainable and things, not
yeah.
in the middle of the village on the promotional center.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about permeable pavers, and they had that as an option, which, the turf block pavers, which would have been a great solution. So I talked to the consultant about it, and he kind of brushed my concern off and said that those permeable pavers need maintenance as well. Don't really know what he was talking about there, but so I did want to bring up to a vote, and I don't know if William or Kate want to comment on it before we bring it up, the porous asphalt.
No, just to sort of agree with what you said. Yeah, I mean, I think we didn't have anything too groundbreaking, just like some small suggestions, one of which was being to avoid increasing the asphalt coverage, and they're sort of going against that.
Yeah, I totally do not support going with that type of asphalt pavement around the park. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the park, that the village in general is going to spend money on that. And never mind the fact that they're proposing asphalt is absurd to me, especially with all of the drainage problems we have if they're going to be creating more impervious surface. But once that clogs, where's all the water going to go? It's just going to drain into the adjacent neighbors or flood the park, and they need to be they need to do better studies of what's going to happen and do some drainage improvements around there if that's what they're proposing. It's wild to me. I didn't even know that was going on. I feel like I should have known that. I should pay more attention to that. It's wild to hear that. So I definitely would support going to commission and letting them know our thoughts.
Okay.
Thanks for staying on top of that.
Yeah, I just happened to see it at the beginning of the last commission meeting, and I didn't get to comment after the other individual, the consultant. He didn't really address it that much. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, I do also think that it's absurd to propose asphalt if we are going to be doing anything there. We actually have a big opportunity to add drainage. Because that whole area around the park, if you're going to put parking spots, you can use those cells that they propose to actually create a place for water to go. So the fact that they went away from that, I don't understand why, other than the cost for cost reasons, but there was no specific cost cited on that decision. So I'd like to bring up for a vote, all in favor of expressing our opposition against using porous asphalt for the parking around the rec center.
I second that.
All in favor?
Agree.
Yep.
In favor.
Agree.
Okay. Okay. That is all I had. Does anybody else have anything else to add before we close the meeting?
Nothing to add.
Just one quick thing I came across something from Miami Waterkeeper. They had released a report on stormwater treatment. Maybe you came across it if you get their emails. I noticed Biscayne Park wasn't featured, so I responded to them and said, "Hey, I just noticed you got a bunch of municipalities and you don't have Biscayne Park. Do you have any info on there?" And they said because it was such a small area, and that the fact they found that Biscayne Park had its own plan, which they provided me, and I just asked the clerk to share with you all. So you should get some documents about, and I've been paging through it. It's quite lengthy, but it looks like they did a fair amount of research back in 2016. Paid an engineering firm, and they did all of the studying about the problem areas, all the same areas that are around. So this is news to me. It doesn't mean that someone in the village who's been here, certainly back then, would probably remember this, but it's clear to me that nothing went forward in terms of actual steps that it seems like they're starting to take now. But
Yeah, I don't know anything about it.
What was this? What was the report or the study on again?
Stormwater master plan.
Yeah, I did hear about that before. I think that was a study that they did before they started doing those drainage improvements.
Right. August 2016. The firm is CAS, Craig A. Smiths and Associates out of Boca. Anyways, hopefully you guys will see it. I just want to mention that at some point.
Yeah, thanks.
For what it's worth.
Yeah, it's important to mention that because we're actually in the middle of, I mean, purportedly that we're supposed to be updating the comprehensive plan for the village, and stormwater and drainage is a huge part of that. And we're basically legally obligated to follow what the framework that's set by the comprehensive plan. I don't know what the status on that is or whether that's already happening or not, but I do think that we should be involved in that process as well. But yeah, I would like to read that.
Yeah, it was just dumb luck. They sent out that report like days after we had that tropical disturbance here that flooded everything. So that was kind of top of mind, but I literally just stumbled upon it.
Yeah, I'll love to see that. Take a look at that when she sends it. Okay, so.
Did we approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting in May already?
We did, yes.
Okay. And then if somebody doesn't mind sending me your notes from the beginning of what I missed in the beginning of the meeting, today's meeting, if that's possible, if somebody can send them to Shantae, then I can, for me, so I could put it together.
Yes, I'll do that. I have them here in front of me. I'll send them to Shantae.
Thank you. Do we know when our next meeting is scheduled for?
Next meeting. I think it's the second Tuesday of July, but let me take a look here at the calendar. No, it's actually the third Tuesday. Oh, because there was the commission meeting had been moved. So it is next month. So it's actually going to be September 19th. Sorry, July 19th at 7 p.m. So let me see. I need to request that.
Okay, so that works for everybody.
Yeah, that works for me. I'm just gonna put it in my, make sure it's in my calendar here.
Okay.
All right, so if nobody has anything else, I'd like to go ahead and close the meeting. All in favor of closing the meeting?
In favor. Aye.
I
All right, thanks. Kate, I'll send those notes over to Shantae.
Thanks.
all right, take care, everybody.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Good night.
See you later. Safe travels, Kate.
Thank you so much.